show of hands of who would like to speak. If I could have some women hands in the air, please.
When Westerners advised Arab countries who they should have as their president, have come to an end. What I'm interested in is that the president they get is one that they chose, and that they can remove that president when they no longer wish to have him or her in charge. That's what we ask for ourselves. Indeed, we would accept nothing less. Why should Arabs be any different to us? It was oftentimes said that Arabs were unsuitable for democracy, that Islam was hostile to democracy. Even some Islamic extremists argued that voting was haram, democracy was forbidden, and all of this rubbish. It's all been washed up by the events of the last 3 months. In fact, another person who's been washed up by these tides of history is Bin Laden and Zawahiri and all these other Salafist haters of who believe that by substituting themselves for the mass of the people, by exploding themselves and other people, they could free their people, when all along the answer to the dictatorships in the Arab world was there on the streets, in the houses, in the workplaces, in the students, in the universities of their people. Once people move, and this is the example of Iran. You see, the tyrant Shah was all-powerful. His Sabak security apparatus, absolutely terrifying and fearsome. But when the Iranian people moved in their millions upon millions, no dictatorship can stand up against it. The soldiers cannot shoot millions, and they only have 6, 12, or 18 bullets in their magazine. If they kill 12 or 18, they'll be torn to pieces by the other millions that they didn't manage to shoot. So there comes a point in this building of this critical mass where the dictators fall, and that will happen in other Arab countries too. The fear that exists in the West about Islamic government coming to power in Egypt, say, or Tunisia, is completely misplaced. First of all, the powerful and popular Islamic parties in Tunisia and Egypt are not the Taliban. They're not Al-Qaeda. They are a government, or would be a government, comparable to the government of Erdogan in Turkey, which I happen to believe is the best government in any Muslim country. And if all the Muslim countries have a government like that, it would be a big step forward. And I believe, as a prediction, that that's what will happen. That the president of Egypt will not be from the Muslim Brotherhood, because they've already announced that they will not stand for that position. But the Muslim Brotherhood is the most popular and powerful political force in Egypt. What's wrong with that? Egypt is an overwhelmingly Muslim country. What's wrong with them choosing democratically a Muslim government? It's our job to deal with whomsoever the people of Egypt or Tunisia choose. And that's what I hope that we will do. There's some very fertile thinking going on. In Tunisia, for example, the leader of the Islamic movement, Sheikh Rashid Ghannouchi, spent a long, long time in exile in London. We learned much from him. And he is proselytizing in Tunisia now, having returned to the country, for a red-green alliance of Labour and the left and the Muslims coming together as a powerful political force which can stabilize the new democracy in Tunisia. And I personally wish it all the best. Capitalism ineluctably leads to injustice and war. I have believed this all of my life, but I can't wait or ask others to wait for the overthrow of capitalism. Go on and bring them down. I don't know why you're shouting at me. Go on then. You really are winning friends and influencing people, I must say. Let me give you a tip as someone who's been a long time in politics. You're making enemies of all the people in this room. And that's not a good idea. Go and pursue Ahmadinejad, and many of the people in here will go with you. But don't destroy their meeting because of your selfish preoccupation with your own issue, which I've already dealt with in 2 long interventions. It's just a tip, just a bit of advice. What we can't do is wait until we have a resource-based economy before bringing down dictatorships or fighting against war and for peace. These are linked, but they are not the same thing. And so, whilst I'm happy to look at your documentary, I don't think it's key in any way to these big struggles that we face today. Certainly, Britain and America, in particular, with their dependence on finance capital. I don't know if you've seen the movie that won an Oscar a couple of weeks ago called An Inside Job, narrated by Matt Damon, which is an absolutely fantastic movie, if you haven't seen it. I'm sure it's not as good as your documentary, but An Inside Job is very, very good. And Capitalism, a Love Affair, with Michael Moore. These are things that we must study, but they're not the same thing as the issue that we are discussing tonight. And with respect to the sister who talked about Wisconsin, and of course I am wholeheartedly behind the labor unions in Wisconsin. We really cannot compare the dictatorship of Hosni Mubarak with the governor of Wisconsin. We really can't, and we do an injustice actually to the Egyptian people by implying that these are the same things. The labor rights of the public sector workers in Wisconsin were hard fought, hard won, have been hard lost, but one day will be won again. But in the United States, there is freedom to organize and to vote. It's not used very well, and it's distorted and perverted by money and by many other things. But it's not the same thing as the dictatorships that we're talking about tonight. However, I can tell you this. On Wednesday morning, I begin a weekly radio show on Radio WBAI in New York and the tri-state area every Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock, right after Democracy Now! I hope it will be syndicated throughout the land and here in Canada in time also. And these issues of labor rights and human rights and economic rights and political rights for the peoples of North America will feature very highly on the kind of issues that I'll be discussing on that radio show. Thank you.